Hello, everyone. Hello, I hope you are well. I am Victoria Mattia, and you are listening to the Mom Care Coach. If this is your first time joining us today, thank you so very much for being here. And if you are looking forward to these episodes every week, I thank you so very much for coming back. I hope that this episode blesses you and it is an encouragement to you on your Autism Mama journey. Thank you so much. Okay, so today we are continuing on with our consistency series. And today we're going to talk about the importance of having an A option and a B option when it comes to be a consistent mom, because we want to make sure that we are responsible, consistent autism moms, because it's important for us to practice our self-care on a daily basis and not to leave it up to chance or to leave it up to, or basically in someone else's hands. So, today we're talking all about how we can be responsible and with consistency concerning self-care, because we're autism moms. So what does that mean? That means that we 100% understand we're never going to give up on our kids. We're not going to give up on our families. We're not going to give up on our spouses. We often will give up on ourselves when it comes to our self-care. And sometimes it's because we've left it a chance. Sometimes it's really hard depending on the season that you're in. Sometimes we just don't know where to start or what to do. And we know the most important thing is taking care of everybody else. And although that is really important, I don't think that it's necessarily the most important thing. And the reason why is because just like if you're on an airplane, they always tell you to put on your own oxygen mask first so that you can help everybody else. And the reason why, and not to help everybody else, but if you need to help, like if you are traveling with your children or your spouse or someone else that you want to help, then first put on the mask so that you can help them. The reason why is if you are fighting for life, it is very difficult, sometimes impossible to help someone else. So in the Autism Mama journey, I think everyone would agree that there are hard seasons. There are difficult times. There are times that, sometimes can feel like the breath has been knocked out of us. And so, because of that, it's really important for us to practice self-care. And we don't want to leave that up in to chance or really to anyone else's discretion or responsibility. So, what I find that can be very, very important is always having an A option and a B option. Now, how I define self-care, meaning that you are personally responsible for taking deep, nourishing care of yourself. That is what self-care is to me. And because of that, I understand that the buck stops with me when it comes to my own personal self-care. Now, you may have a really amazing family where mom, grandpa, uncle, auntie steps in and helps you so that you can have the time for that self-care. Or maybe you have an amazing husband who gives you time in the evenings or early in the morning so that you can provide that self-care for yourself. I think it's beautiful and awesome. You may be a single mama and you rely on respite care or additional caregivers that's able to provide that for you. And I think that that's equally amazing too. However, sometimes there are times where, maybe the caregiver isn't able to come there, or maybe your husband works overtime, or maybe auntie and uncle or on vacation because, they have timeshare or whatever the reason is. I think it's really important for us to be able to still have an ability to work that out within ourselves so that we can guarantee that it's going to happen every day. As an autism mom, sometimes it can be so challenging. And I have known personally other autism parents that have struggled with mental health, emotional health, physical health, who have had multiple nervous breakdowns because they didn't prioritize their own self-care. And when they noticed the warning signs, they did not stop and say, okay, this is too much. I need to do something else. I know even in my own personal life, I have had seasons where that has been incredibly difficult. And because of that, as I was coming out of that season, I noticed my emotional health, my mental health, and my physical health was so significantly impacted. If I didn't do something, I was afraid of what could happen next. And for me specifically, I have to speak to my physical health. We all know that we have to practice like mental health Mondays or, focus on self-care when it comes to our emotional health or working on trauma from our childhood, working with a coach or a therapist or someone and helping us to unpack that so that we can be the best caregiver possible for our children. But sometimes we forget about our physical health. And I know for myself, I'm 49 and I started to have some physical health challenges. And I knew where it came from. It came from putting my health on the back burner and saying to myself, okay, that is important, but what I'm dealing with right now with my children is urgent. And so that I'll just get to it later. Well, later is not a day of the week. Someday is not a day of the week. Sometime is not a day of the week. So without giving an actual timeline, I was doing myself a disservice. And what was once very important and that I just didn't pay attention to that was becoming urgent when it came to my physical health. And so I have learned personally that I have to slow down my life so that I can be the person that I need to be, the mother, the individual, the woman that I want to be for now and in the future as I age. God willing, I'll have a long life. No one knows. But we do know that we can do the best that we can with what we have right now and the time that has been given to us right now and the importance of that. So I think that that is something that's a perfect place to start. And that is the reason why, I mean, honestly, the reason why I started this podcast in the first place was because our children will often have different types of therapies and doctors and therapists and care workers and on and so forth. It may be hard to get to a lot of those different resources, but once they're in place, they're in place. But there isn't, to my knowledge, where the doctor will turn to the mother and say, hey, if you are the primary caregiver here, it is really, really important and intentional to your family life and your personal life for you to focus on your personal self-care. That's physical, emotional, mental, spiritual health. If you don't do that, it is vital for you to do this because if you do not, it can impact your family and yourself in really detrimental ways that may not be obvious right now because that primary caregiver for many families are that underpinning where the child is looking to them to help regulate their nervous system, looking to them to provide the different steps and therapies and different things that they need because often that primary caregiver is the mother and she's the one who holds that mental load of making sure that everything gets done. And so if she's not caring deeply for herself, then if she gets sick, then all the balls in the air that she has been holding all this time that no one even notices can fall to the ground and it can make everything a mess and kind of chaos can explode. And of course, we want to avoid that at all costs, but it really comes down to having daily self-care. So if you are noticing that you have not been as intentional, it's not being planned on a daily basis or a weekly basis for it to happen daily, and sometimes you practice your self-care and sometimes you do not, maybe we want to take a look at making sure that for every one of our four intentional needs, which is sleep, movement, mindset, and nutrition, we have A and B options. Now, for nutrition, I always recommend to create meal plans, and then you have times where you go to the grocery shopping, do the grocery shopping, or order online, or however you make that happen for you and your family. That is something that has to be scheduled and planned out so that it will happen. For mindset, maybe it has to be you're going to be focusing on a personal development book to help you with your, chatter that happens in the mind sometimes, or making sure that what you want to come out of your mouth is first in your thoughts so that everything is congruent. Books can be really great for that. Book clubs can be really great for that, or focusing on how to be still and focusing on breath work and being intentional with your words and your thoughts aligning. And how you're doing that is what you're putting inside of you. What are you consuming with your eyes and in your mind? And how all of that can be aligned with depending on what you watch, what you read, what you listen to, the music you listen to, the people that are around you that are in your core group. Often there's a saying that the five people that surround us at all times are the ones that impact the thoughts that we have and how we come across verbally and mentally and all of that. And so it's important for us to really focus on what it is that we're wanting to do and be. Now, when it comes to, so we've talked about movement, we talked about, well, we haven't talked about movement yet. We've talked about mindset, we've talked about nutrition. So let's talk about sleep and movement. So, sleep that has to be planned out, like in a planner, when it comes to your actual sleep hygiene. Sleep hygiene, beautiful sleep hygiene doesn't just happen, it happens throughout the day before you get to sleep. When was the last meal that you had? Was it 3 hours before bedtime? Is your last drinks like your water, your tea, your coffee, your all of that stuff? When did you take that? They say that you should finish coffee or any caffeinated drinks in the afternoon, nothing after noon. Latest, nothing after 2 o'clock. What about like your evening drinks? Tea and water, juice if you do that, as well as your meals. They should be finished 3 hours before you want to go to sleep. Is the room cool enough? Are your pajamas comfortable? Is it dark enough? Are you turning off all of the blue light at least an hour before you need to lay down to sleep? Are you, maybe some people will light candles, other people will do like Himalayan lamps. There's different things that people do. Like, what are you doing to help support that? Are you taking supplements? Are you um, having a hot bath or an essential oil scrub down? That I've talked about that before. That just takes a couple minutes. Are you reading books before bed? What are you doing for your sleep hygiene? All of that can be planned out too, because we don't want to leave it on a whim, right? Same thing with movement. And I always say, okay, now this is where we really want to hone in on having more than one an A or B option when it comes to movement. Because sometimes, we think we can get it done early first thing in the morning, and maybe a couple days you can, but then maybe one of the children gets sick, or maybe who usually helps you have that time to yourself, they're not available. So maybe have that option if it's available to you, where someone can help you. But just in case something doesn't work out, you have a B option so that it still gets done. And of course, everything is planned out, but you can't plan for everything if someone gets sick or if your caregiver isn't able to show up. You can still make sure that you are able to get that movement in, because at the end of the day, the buck stops with us. It is our responsibility to care deeply for ourselves. And no one's going to love you like you. So if you're struggling with loving you, or feeling like you're worthy. We're going to do another episode talking about self-sabotage, but I do want to kind of put that in your mind. Is it something that you struggle with? Self-sabotage is a real thing, and sometimes it can kind of creep in on you. It can, be steeped in things that happened many years ago. You know, it could have started when you were a child. Um, Feelings of unworthiness or feelings of you're not good enough. And of course, all of that is happening on a subconscious level, but it affects how we show up right now. So, what can we do? Lots of things. Number one, look for coaching, look for therapy. I have just opened up my calendar where I do have some evening options. If you are looking for coaching, I am a certified women's wellness educator and certified life and health coach. So if you are looking for that wellness coaching, that piece to figure out, okay, I need to unpack what's going on with these four intentional needs. Why is movement so hard? Or why is nutrition so hard? Or why is it I practice the sleep hygiene for a little while and then I get off again and then it's really hard to get back on again? Or why is it that I struggle in my mindset? Why is it I don't always say the things I want to say, or I don't show up for myself in the ways I know I can, and I really want to, but I haven't really put plans in place that I stick to. If you're wanting to unpack some of that stuff, I do have some coaching packages, and I also do have that open. I also have products on my website that can be helpful as well. So going back to making sure you have an A and B option, that can play out in our life in a multitude of different areas, but specifically just focusing today on maybe looking at movement. Are there a couple of different options? So let's say I always recommend the 10-minute Pilates workouts from Lindy Well, and I will try to link the my link that you can sign up if you want to. I believe the first week is free if you're wanting to just kind of try it out and see how it works out. And then Lindy Well is really awesome. They have other workouts, obviously, that are more than just 10 minutes, but I always love the 10-minute workouts because that guarantees myself, even if I have a little bit of time or even if I'm not feeling my best, she has all different kinds. And I know that I'm able to help my body and I can show up for myself in that way because it's just 10 minutes. If I have more time, I can do more, but most of the time, the 10 minutes is where I live, right there. And if you have those couple options, let's say you think to yourself, you're going to get up at 6 and do that, and maybe the kids are still sleeping, or maybe you already have care available for you. That can be one option. You already have your workout clothes laid out, you got your shoes laid out, you have your water already laid out, everything's wonderful. You wake up, and what if the baby's not feeling well? You know, then you need to have another option. So look in your schedule. That's why we don't want to leave it up to chance. Look in your planner. Do you have an 11 o'clock available? If you work outside the home, do you have a 1:20 available where you take a lunch hour there and then maybe go for a brisk walk around the neighborhood where you work for 10 minutes? Or maybe you do some stretches in your office. Or maybe you can do just some exercises, some chair Pilates. That's also one of the videos on that website as well. Maybe you don't like Pilates at all, and you're looking at some other options for yourself. Maybe you like basketball, maybe you like swimming. But just think of making sure, always making sure you have a couple options because it is our responsibility at autism as autism moms to work on ourselves and to help ourselves. I saw this reel today and it was really fascinating. It was a woman who was asking the question, when the Most High decided to give us children that have special needs, does he give it to the ones that are the most patient, the most amazing, the most who have it together? Maybe. But sometimes He also gives it to us so that we can grow and learn alongside our children. And I know that's a little bit of a different spin to think about, but you know, yes, I do believe our children are gifts. But I also think that because we see them in therapies, we see them working on themselves, we see them working really, really hard. We need to also allow ourselves to have permission to work hard too on our self-care. It may be a different way of thinking about it, working hard on your self-care. Sometimes it is hard work. Why? Because we don't always have the time we need. Sometimes we struggle with exhaustion and overwhelm and hypervigilance and um, uh, as they call it, helicopter parenting, because we literally do have to be hypervigilant for the safety of ourselves, our children, and others around us sometimes, depending on your child's support needs. And so sometimes it's very challenging to find the time, to make the time, to believe we're worth the time. So I challenge you and I leave this with you to really take these health solutions as the ability to work on yourself. Something that is so pivotal, but it's also so important, but sometimes in some seasons is really difficult. And I'm right there with you. Sometimes I really struggle too, but I work hard because I love my children and I love myself. And I want to be here for a really long time with health, strength, and vitality. So, as I always say, I hope that this was an episode that blessed you. And I do truly mean this when I say, please do take good care. It's important. You only have one life, and there's only one you. Okay. So I hope that you have a great day and that this blesses you. Also, I mentioned in the last episode the importance of our Facebook community. We have a Facebook group called the Mom Care Coach. It is a private group. So please ask to um, to join, and I will happily join you so that you can receive the support that you need, the love and the attention from other mamas that are in the same boat as you as well. So have a fantastic day, and until the next time, take good care. Thanks. Bye.